Hello everyone. Today we're going to cover absolute value equations and inequalities, alright? So let's just get into it. Let's say absolute value of 2 is going to be 2 because what it is actually distance. 1, 2. The distance from 0 to 2 is 2. So the absolute value of 2 equals 2. Alright, that's straightforward. That'll be the same for any kind of number. Absolute value of -5 is going to be 5. Because we count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. But distance is always positive. Okay? You never say, I'm going to LA, and that's negative 80 miles from here. You never say negative distance, okay? It's always positive. So, first example. Let's go ahead and determine how many solutions we can have for this type of question. Absolute value of x equals 10. So how many solutions can we have for the absolute value of x to equal 10? We can have 2, okay, because the absolute value of 10 is 10, and the absolute value of -10 is also 10. Okay, so you have two potential values for x. So, all right, 2 solutions, and it could be x equals 10 or x equals -10. Okay? Now, I'm going to show you some examples where that won't work. What if we had something like absolute value of x equals -5? Okay, so for this one, there's going to be no solutions, and I'm going to show you why. No solutions. And the reason is, we know it could be 5, right? X could be 5, x could be -5. But remember, if, sorry, I messed that up. Absolute value of 5 is 5. And the absolute value of -5 is still 5. That 5 is not -5. Therefore, it's no solution. We can't put anything in for x that the absolute value will give us -5, okay? That's a whole nother thing in itself. So when you see absolute value of x equals a negative number, that's no solution, and this is the proof right here, okay? So let's go ahead and start with the equations. And we'll call this example 2. Absolute value of x plus 2 equals 4. Okay? And I'm going to move that around. This is going to break up into two problems. It's going to break up into x plus 2 equals 4 and x plus 2 equals -4. Okay? Because remember, absolute value, we had two values. Well, not that one. We had two values up here, right? So it's kind of similar. We break it up into two values, and now we just go through it just like a regular equation. Solve for x. So you're going to isolate the variable, subtract 2 from both sides. You're going to get x equals 2. Now we do the other side. Subtract 2, get 0. -4 minus 2 is -6. Okay. And there's your answer. X will equal 2 or X will equal -6. Okay? And I'm going to do a quick little check just to show you guys. We have, what was our problem? X plus 2. X plus 2. Absolute value of X plus 2 equals 4. Okay, I'm going to plug it right back in and I'll call it check. I'll change the colors up. So let's plug in our value. Absolute value of 2 plus 2. Does that equal 4? Well, 2 plus 2 is 4. And the absolute value of 4 is 4. So that's cool. That works. 4 equals 4. And let's try plugging in -6. Absolute value of -6 plus 2. Does that equal 4? -6 plus 2 is -4. And yes, 4 does equal 4. So it works. Okay, and that's how you'll check that. Hopefully that was an easy example. Let's do something a little bit more difficult. Here's a question. What if you had something like this? Absolute value of X plus 1 equals -5. How do we do those with the negative? If you remember, back to this example right here, when we had an absolute value equal a negative, there was no solution. It's the same thing here. We have an absolute value equal a negative, no solution. So hopefully you get a lot of those examples and you can finish your work quickly. But you probably won't. Alright, let's move on. What if you get something, different type of examples? Let's do example 3. Okay, let's say we get something like X plus 3 minus 1 equals 5. Just like before, we want to solve for X. But before we can break it up into two problems, we need to go ahead and get it back into the original form, a form that looks like this. I'm going to call that OG form. Okay, original form. So in order to do that, we're just going to add 1 to both sides, because what you do to one side, you do to the other. And you're going to get absolute value of X plus 3 equals 6. Now that we have it in the original form, or the form that we want, I'm sure there's a more technical term for it, but this is the form, that's what I'm going to call it, and this is the form that we want. Now we can break it up. X plus 3 equals 6. X plus 3 equals -6. Alright, subtract 3 to both sides. X equals 3. Same thing to the other one. Subtract 3 to both sides. X equals -9. And there you go. We started here. We added 1 to both sides. We got it back to the original form. Here. Broke it up into 2. A and B. And we got 2 answers. Alright? So that's pretty easy. And I'll give you another variation of that. Let's say we have a problem like 2 absolute value of X minus 10 equals 30. Just like before, we want to get it back into a version that we know. So a form that we know. So we're going to add 10 to both sides. And you're going to get 2 times absolute value of x equals 40. Now we're going to divide by 2. Divide by 2. Since this is multiplication, opposite of multiplication is division. Cancel it out. And you're going to get x equals 20. And we know right now that what absolute value of what will give us 20? Well, as we said before, absolute value of 20 will give us 20. And absolute value of negative 20 will also give us 20. Therefore, x equals 20 or x equals negative 20. Okay? So, just to recap, we went ahead and got into a form that we know. We added 10 to both sides over here. This canceled. 30 plus 10 is 40. Then we divided by 2 right here. Opposite of multiplication is division, so these canceled. And what you do to one side, you do to the other. Divided by 2. 40 divided by 2 is 20. And then we said what values for x will give us 20. Well, absolute value of 20 will give us 20. And absolute value of negative 20 will give us 20 as well. So here's our answer. X equals 20 or x equals negative 20. Alright? And the last type of example that I'm going to do are absolute value inequalities. I'm just going to jump right into a more difficult one so that you guys will know how to do it. So let's do, what example is this? Example 4. Example 4. I'm going to do a super difficult one. 3 times x plus 2 plus 5 is greater than equal to 23. Okay, so just like before, we did an example similar to this. We want to get it into a form that we already know. So let's go ahead and subtract 5 to both sides. Subtract 5. And we're going to rewrite what we have left. 3 times absolute value of x plus 2 greater than equal to 23 minus 5 is 18. Okay. Now we're going to go ahead and get rid of that 3. When they're next to each other, I'm sure you guys know it's multiplication, but just in case you don't. Opposite of multiplication is division. Divide by 3 to both sides. 3 over 3 will cancel, it's just 1. So you'll get absolute value of x plus 2 greater than equal to 18 divided by 3 is 6. Now it's in the form that we can work with. So now let's go ahead and break it up. X plus 2 is greater than equal to 6. And x plus 2 is greater than equal to negative. Oh, you know what? I didn't even cover this. Let me see here. So, I'll cover it right now. So just as before, remember when we used to flip the sign, broke it up into 2 pieces, like this example here? We broke it up here and here. Okay? Anytime you have an inequality, remember that when you divide or multiply by a negative, you have to flip the sign. Well, what we're doing actually is we're breaking it up into two, and one of them we take the same. So x plus 2, this one here, looks identical to this one, except it doesn't have the absolute value bars on it, right? But if we're going to be switching the sign, and if we're going to make this -6 over here, then we have to flip the sign, okay? Because we just kind of turned it into a negative, so we have to flip the sign. I'm not going to go too in depth into it. That could be for another video, okay? And we'll do x plus 2. Okay, key thing to emphasize right here is we flip the sign right here. Turned negative, flip sign. Okay, that's really important. If not, you're going to get all of these wrong. Okay, so just emphasize flip. Alright, now that we have that, we can go back to solving it. So to start over here, let's subtract 2 to both sides. X, and this is 0. X is greater than or equal to 4. And we'll go here. We subtract 2 to both sides. Subtract 2 to both sides. You're going to get x less than or equal to -6. Take away another 2 is -8. Alright? X is less than or equal to the -8. So now let's graph this, just to make sure we know what we're doing. We'll just do 0. And let's go to 4. Let's go to -8. Now looking at it, -8. Is that open or closed circle? It's going to be a closed circle. It says x is less than or equal to -8. So less than means we're going to the left. Those values are less than. X is greater than or equal to the 4. Greater than or equal to 4. So we're going to go to the right. Okay? So this is an or, not an and. Okay? So we covered a lot of things in this video. We covered absolute value inequalities. Again, we covered this turned, once it goes negative, then you have to flip the sign when you change it negative. Alright, we covered, let's see here, absolute value linear equations. We covered when you have a negative, when your absolute value equals a negative. Original form, no solutions, 2 solutions. Cool, we covered a lot of stuff. So I'm going to call it here. If you have any more questions, please feel free to ask. I'll see you guys next time. Peace.